Happy Wednesday, everyone! Welcome to Teams Day Online, day number 1. I hope you'd already heard some interesting presentations today, and welcome to my session for the next 30 minutes. My name is Karoliina Kettukari, and I will be telling you some ideas and insights about Teams for field workers. And we are going to talk about what kind of challenges do you face when you are thinking about adopting Teams for your field workers, and what are the possible solutions of how to overcome those challenges. But first of all, I would like to, of course, thank our sponsors, because without you, we all wouldn't be here today. Okay, so just a few words about me before we go any deeper. So my name was Karoliina Kettukari, and I come from Finland. Yay! I love speaking at user groups and conferences, and you can of course find me from Twitter and LinkedIn with Kettukari, my last name. So please feel free to add me as a contact in there. In my work life, I do everything that revolves around Teams, user adoption, change management, and etc. I'm also a Microsoft MVP. But today, actually, is a very special day for me because it's the last day of September and it's my birthday. Yay! And besides that, I'm also moving today because I've been renovating my new home the whole summer and finally it's ready, it's finished. So I've also moved to a new house today. So awesome to be here with you as well. Great. So let's begin. This is our agenda for the next 30 minutes. First, I will go through some terminology so that we are all in the same line when we are talking about field workers, knowledge workers, first-line workers, etc. Then we are talking about what's the role of teams outside of those jobs who are not sitting in front of computers the whole day. Then we go a bit deeper into Teams as a platform and what could that mean to first-line workers and field workers. And in the end, we go through some challenges and solutions, some use cases from my customer projects, and how we can make everyday work life better for those working in the field. And if you have any questions during this presentation, please write those questions into the live event chat, and I'll try to answer those as soon as possible. Right now, I will shut down my video feed and let's focus on the slides for a bit. Usually, when we start implementing Teams to our organization, we will start the process with knowledge workers. And knowledge workers are, of course, maybe the easier group because they are employees who are sitting in front of computers at the office, at their home, basically the whole day. Knowledge workers, their work revolves around office programs, Excels, Outlook, PowerPoints, Teams, etc. But then, in many companies, we have these large employee groups that are not in the office, or maybe are in the office, but are not working with Teams and office programs day to day. And in many companies, the field workers or first-line workers are even bigger group than knowledge workers. In many industries, in many factories, there might be hundreds or thousands of field workers and much less knowledge workers. And this picture here is from a blog from Microsoft, and I think it's a pretty nice picture, so I took it here with us today too. But with field workers, we mean by employees who are doing very mobile work. For example, they are building houses at construction site. They may be maintenance workers, plumbers, flight attendants, etc. And the common denominator is that field workers don't have access to computers, they don't have laptops, they don't have desktop computers. And then we have another group that's first-line workers. And the difference is that first-line workers, for example, bank tellers, or customer service people, they have computers and they actually may be sitting in front of those computers the whole day, but their work happens usually in front of a customer, and their work happens in separate customer systems, separate banking systems, not in Teams, not in PowerPoint, etc. And now we hopefully are on the same page with those terminology. So let's go deeper into what teams may mean to those two different working groups. This is something I hear quite a lot. Of course, I hear this from knowledge workers as well. But when I go and talk with people who are working in a construction site or doing maintenance job, they are saying that my job is to build houses. My job is to drive this car. My job is not to learn how to use Teams. And of course, they are correct. But I also try to think about some kind of working role that would not benefit from any modern tools. And if you can come up with any role, working profession that is not benefiting from Teams or Outlook or whatever modern tools we have at the moment, please write those in the chat. It would be interesting to see. Because these posters right here, they are from Microsoft. You can find them from Google if you search Day in the Life of Microsoft. I'm not sure if you can find them from Bing, actually, but from Google, yeah. And here are two examples of a retail worker and a construction worker. And even though the retail worker's main goal is to sell stuff in the store, and of course, for the construction worker, she's building houses in this case, they all have several points during their workday that they could access Teams, they could access Power Apps, they could utilize their mobile phones and make their everyday working life easier with the help of Teams and these modern tools. This is an interesting discussion, and I have this discussion almost every day last spring when I did these teamwork development workshops in several companies with employees. And I asked the employees that, are you using Teams? And of course they were saying, yes, we are using Teams. And I thought, great, that's awesome. So we have a good base where we can build up our teamwork even better. And then we started chatting, what exactly are you using in Teams? And they were saying, oh, we have Teams meetings. Of course, because the workshops were also done with Teams. And then they had lots of chats in Teams. And then I started thinking that's interesting, because I know, and hopefully we all know, that Teams is so much more than just a chat, just a meeting device. That's Skype. And actually Teams is the hub for teamwork. Teams is the whole Microsoft 365 inside one window. So I will challenge you here for a bit, and I would like you to think different. Think Teams as a platform. And this was actually funny. I searched Wikipedia, I searched Google, and the first thing that came from Google was Wikipedia. And if it's a Wikipedia, I think it must be official. And there it says that Teams is a platform for, of course, chat and meetings, but also application integration. And the Teams is a platform when we are thinking about how to bring your internet to Teams, how to bring your forms into Teams, how to develop your business processes with Power Apps, with Power Automate, and bring those to Teams. Bring those to mobile phones for your first line workers. That's where the golden lies. today. So what could this Teams as a platform mean in concrete to a first-line worker or to a field worker? Of course, this is a huge topic, and I could go through every single application we have in there, etc. But I wanted to talk about 3 different points. And these are maybe the points that I've encountered the most in my own customer projects. First of all, the usual thing is that first-line workers, they don't have any access to company information. So they do not have access to internet. They are not having desktop computers. They don't have laptops. So they are not going to internet to read the news every day. Some of field workers may not even have company email addresses. So they are totally out of the communication loop that's happening inside the organization. The second interesting thing is that field workers rarely have some possibility to communicate. So they may have phones, their own phones, maybe even some company phones, but they mainly text, they maybe do phone calls. And what happens when we don't offer employees any official way, any company governed way to communicate with each other? Of course, they will be using WhatsApp then. And of course, now we can offer every employee the possibility to chat with each other, to chat with their own team, to deliver information from the manager to employees, from employees to managers via Teams. And that's an awesome thing we should consider when we are thinking about Teams as a platform and how should we implement Teams to our first line and field workers. And of course, the third thing is automating the manual processes we have. And this is also interesting because actually in many companies, we still have pen, we still have paper, and we fill those pen and paper forms, and we do so many things totally manually. And just by developing a small amount of those processes, just with maybe forms, just maybe some super simple Power Automate with no extra licenses, we can save so much money. We can save so much time, and time, of course, being money in here, that it's especially the case you should be looking into. Okay, so if it's so awesome, if it saves time and saves money, why are not we doing it already? Of course, it's not that easy. This is a picture I found from Harvard Business Review. They had this survey made to especially retail services, but also other industries. And they were asking that what are the greatest barriers when you are enabling your first line workers with digital world? For example, by implementing Teams. And there were some super interesting answers to this questionnaire. And especially the second row in here caught my attention because 40 to 50% of those managers said that lack of effective change management and adoption processes is the greatest barrier. And I, of course, thought that, hey, this is why we are here. This is why you have those consultancy companies all over the world that can help you. So you are not alone. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We know these things already, and we can help you. So let's go to the real life cases. Let's go to the challenges and maybe even some solutions. And I've gathered here 5 different challenges, 5 different small customer case stories for you. And then I will be also telling some pro tips, some of my best tips, how you could tackle those challenges when you are thinking about implementing Teams to your first line workers. So our challenge number 1 is all about the physical tools. We may have this great idea to implement Teams to our 100 retail stores. But what about the employees in those stores? They maybe don't have any company phones. They don't have any tablets, iPads. Maybe the only computers I can use is some dusty old desktop computer in the back room of the store. So with what devices we are going to use these cool new modern tools? This is a discussion I always face with my customers, and this actually should be a discussion that should be talked through before we are starting a project. And of course, it's about money. If we are going to buy iPhones to all of our employees, it will cost huge amounts of money. But if we think about it the other way around, if we are able to give our employees a tool to communicate, for example, some process that can be done faster or more secure via power-ups, we are actually going to save time. And time, as we all know, is money. We are maybe also doing less mistakes, so it will cost us less money, and etc. So when we are talking about company devices, it's a hard discussion because it's about money, but also we have very good points where we can count the return on investment and actually save money by spending some money. So my solution for this challenge is to discuss it beforehand. So go through those calculations, go through those return of investment discussions. And if the managers, if your customer is saying that, oh, our employees can use their own personal mobile phones. Because, for example, in Finland, everyone has a cool iPhone or a new Android phone. And of course, they could utilize those. But do we really want them to use those? What if the employee doesn't want to upload Teams to their own personal phone? For example, in Finland, we can't make people to use Teams in their personal phones if they don't want to. And the bigger question with personal mobile phones is that usually they are not up to date. They maybe have old-fashioned operating system, or they are full with cat videos and memes. So Teams isn't even it's not even possible to upload Teams to their phones. So about the devices, you have to go through the discussion. Go through the discussion before you are starting your project. And remember, you can use personal mobile phones, but it's not the only answer. It's not the only answer you have to make. And for our second challenge today, I'm jumping from here to there. I hope you don't mind. So the management is usually not that very well aware of what the employees in stores, in construction sites are actually doing. The managers and even the supervisors may know the processes. They may know the outcome of their work, but they don't know those day-to-day routines, the everyday work the Firstline and field workers are doing in their day-to-day working life. And this is a interesting customer case. I was talking with a manager, and they were like high up in the company hierarchy. So they had power, they had money to buy this project. And they were having lots of construction sites, and they needed some kind of process because they were coming building material to those construction sites, and they wanted to take a picture as a proof that, hey, the material has come and the material's okay, there are no damage in the material. So they needed to check that everything was okay in those sites. And I had a discussion with the manager, and they were thinking like, SharePoint, metadata. Let's take pictures and send them to via email to SharePoint and utilize some approval flows, etc. And yeah, basically, if it would be a knowledge workers, it would be a totally okay process. But when we are talking about field workers with maybe not iPhones, maybe super simple phones, and not that much time to take pictures, not any interest at all to fill any metadata, maybe that process is not the best answer to this problem. So the management may be the persons or the people you are talking with in this project in the beginning. But as soon as possible, you should actually start talking with the employees themselves. And one great solution I've done in many of my projects is actually to bring the both parties to the same table. And we are having these inspirational workshops, or whatever you might want to call those, where we are having both the managers, maybe some supervisors, maybe some line managers, but also those people from the field. We are having all of them around the same table and then discussing the day-to-day life, the day-to-day challenges, and the solutions we really could use in there. So if you are all only talking with managers, you might be a bit estranged from the reality. If you have ever had a training, like basic Teams training for any group, you know that technical skills vary very much inside the organization, even inside one team. And even if you are working in the IT department, it doesn't necessarily mean you are excellent with Teams already. And what about when we are going away from the IT, away from the office totally, and we are going to retail store, construction sites? There is a huge gap between the technical skills and what we want the employees to do with mobile phones and tablets, etc. So the technical skills are a challenge with knowledge workers as well, but especially it can be a challenge in the field. And if we go back to the one example where I talked about metadata and SharePoint and construction sites, so the simpler solution for that kind of case would have been that, for example, we are making just one simple power up, which has like one button, take a picture. And the employee will open the power up, they will take a picture with the button. The picture will automatically save the geolocation, the date, and the time, so the employee doesn't have to fill up all those information themselves. They all are there already. And after the picture, they have another button, and the another button says send. So the employee will send the picture, and it will automatically go via different workflows, via different Power Automates to the right place, to the right SharePoint document library with the right metadata. And the process is all the same than the manager was thinking, but the user experience from the field worker point of view is super much better. It's just two buttons, take a picture and send it. So when the technical skills are lacking, my advice is to kiss. And that means, of course, keep it simple, stupid. It's not stupid if it works. And even though Teams can be super nice user interface for knowledge workers, it has so many buttons that field workers doesn't need. So focus on those features they are going to need. And if needed, you can utilize, for example, forms, you can utilize power-ups to make it even simpler. So remember, if there is lacking in technical skills, keep it simple, stupid. So now we are in the challenge number 4. This is actually a bit of my pet peeve because I love communication. I love open communication. I love that every employee in the company are able to go and read the important information they need to have. And we already talked about this for a while, a bit earlier, when we thought that how can first-line workers and field workers get access to internet, get access to Teams, and all those other documents, discussions, all the knowledge workers already have. And here we have an interesting point, because I've done quite so many internet projects in my life, and every time we are starting developing an internet, it's a project starts when me and the communications department and maybe someone from the IT, we sit down in around the table, open a desktop computer or a laptop, and then we start thinking, hey, this is the browser, this is our SharePoint, here are the news, here are the links, but where are our users? And especially in the last few years, because of Teams, our users are not necessarily in the internet anymore. They do not open browser first when they come to the office. They open first Teams. And the same case is with first-line workers and field workers. They may not even have any SharePoint application in their mobile phones, but they maybe have Teams. So what parts, for example, from our internet, we could bring the Teams? Or it could be, for example, if you are a large company, utilize Yammer in our internal communications so that it will be easier available via mobile phones. I have a small demo about this for you, so let's take a look at that. Welcome to my demo internet. So as you can see in here, basically you could bring maybe the whole your internet or some parts from your internet to Teams. And this will work if you are a small organization, let's say about under 5,000 employees. If you are larger than that, then you maybe have to do some things differently, but you could still utilize Teams or Yammer as part of bringing information to your field workers and first-line workers. Here, for example, we have same kind of channels, same kind of sections than we would have in our own internet. And we can post news, we can utilize all of those possibilities Teams and Microsoft 365 has to offer. We can use all of these through the Teams application in our mobile phones. And of course, we can also embed a SharePoint part to our Teams internet. And this is actually something I'm very interested in. And I've been doing a couple of these kind of Teams internets with my customers. And if you want to know more about these topics, I have done a few presentations about this, so you can check those out as well. But I think when we are thinking about internet, we could utilize Teams way more than we do at the moment, both in communication, collaboration, and also with bringing news to our employees, not only in the office, but also outside of the office. So the solution for this challenge is, of course, to bring the internet and all the other communication to where the employees already are. And of course, as we all know, SharePoint and Teams are better together. And finally, we are in our last challenge. And the challenge is a bit more psychological in a way. And the challenge is that the current state is always easier, it's always more comfortable than the future that may be unknown, a bit scary, maybe also a bit difficult. You have to learn something new. You have to develop yourself. And a great example of this is that when I talk about teams with employees, and I tell the employees, or especially the managers, that hey, I don't get any emails. I seriously, I do not get any emails because all of my communication inside my own organization with my clients is in Teams. And the managers, employees are always, oh, no, that's not the case with us. Because I've been using email for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And I will be using email for many, many years to come. And in the field, the same problem might arise, for example, when we are doing some checking processes with pen and paper. And the power of pen and paper is also very, very strong. And how can we develop something when people don't know any better or maybe are a little scared for the future? And I've realized that the solution for this challenge is being super practical, being super concrete, and showing people what they can do, what they can achieve. So my advice for here is to show, don't just tell. And for example, you can pilot your, for example, teams in one unit, in one department. And when all the other employees see that, oh, that retail store is really doing nicely with the teams, and they can share documents, they can share information, they can send gifts to each other, then they will also want one to themselves. So try these proof of concepts, try small pilots, do one construction site at a time, or do one retail store at a time, and then let the best practices spread along. Hey, our time here is up. Thank you everyone for coming here today. Thank you for listening to my session. And I hope you got some new ideas, maybe some new insights where you can start implementing Teams and other modern tools to your field workers and first-line workers. Please send us feedback. There is the QR code to the event feedback and also QR code to my own speaker and session feedback. And if you still have any questions, please write those to the chat and I can answer to them. Thank you and have a great day.